Let's give our new superintendent a round of applause, Dr. Avis Williams. Thank you so much. So we're about to enter our 2022-2023 school year.
Happy school year.
Yes, indeed. I look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
I really do. So we're assembled here with many of our stakeholders that also embrace our young people and their voices in this process as we have focused on attendance and particularly truancy in the city of New Orleans. We understand firsthand how truancy, how our children, how our families, how our schools were impacted by a lack of attendance. And we're wanting to do everything that we can as we prepare ourselves for the 22-23 school year here in the city of New Orleans. For the past several months now, my Office of Youth and Families, led by Director Emily Wolf, has led working groups dedicated to the issue of truancy and chronic absenteeism. And I just want to say thank you to all of our partners who are here, who were at the table, and who did not give up in terms of focusing on this issue, no matter how complex or challenging that we know that it's been and will be for our city. But we believe that us demonstrating that we're working together on this issue, that would have an impact on the ground with our families, and at the end of the day, our young people going to school on time and ensuring that they do not follow or go on the path of chronic absenteeism. The stakeholders here with me, of course, as I mentioned, our new superintendent, Dr. Avis Williams, but more importantly, the New Orleans Public School, the Orleans Parish School Board, the New Orleans Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, the New Orleans City Council, the courts, and many other partners have been at the table again for months. And based on that work, they have real recommendations that will be highlighted on this afternoon relative to truancy. The first is that there needs to be a clear and tiered set of interventions to manage unexcused absences. The importance of comprehensive data collection to track students' progression throughout the system and through the system, again, a real need that we have. The opportunity for increased collaboration between the courts and the school system is definitely a need there. In addition to the role the New Orleans Police Department plays relative to our school resource officers and knowing that they're in the trenches as well as supporting truancy check requests. We know that this is an all-hands-on-deck approach, and it's necessary if, again, we're going to address chronic absenteeism in our city, and we know the impacts the last 2 years have had on our young people and their families. And it's going to take this village as well as the responsibility of all of us. And that speaks to also our parents. Parents, it's extremely important that showing up on time every single day, it has a direct impact on your child's success and learning. Just missing 10% of school 1 or 2 days every few weeks can have a major impact on academic success. To our students, this is all about you, wanting you to really be the best that you can be. And so, being ready for school every morning, that is a responsibility that you have. And we're saying to you, we're going to provide you with the support, but it takes you stepping up and doing what is necessary to further your education, which we know it's important, but it has to be just as important to you. To our business leaders, we need your help as well in terms of incentivizing and encouraging to keeping our young people connected to school and other opportunities. I was very excited to see the business community and that of GNO Inc. came out here recently underscoring programs and opportunities that the city of New Orleans have advanced and them making a commitment to ensure that these programs continue and resources truly are deployed in areas that meet our people, our young people and families where they are. But more importantly, I am here to demonstrate my commitment as the mayor of the city of New Orleans and working with all of our stakeholders, and one that is truly at the helm, that of Dr. Avis Williams. So at this time, Madam Superintendent, come on up and let's move us through this press conference. And thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mayor Cantrell, and thank you all for being here. On behalf of the Orleans Parish School Board, I do want to reiterate what the mayor has said. In terms of this commitment, NOLA PS is committed to supporting our community of schools as they work towards helping our scholars achieve good attendance, because we know in order for our academic outcomes to improve, we must attend school regularly. We are committed to addressing the issue of truancy collaboratively and in partnership with all stakeholders, and this has to include our scholars and our families, so I'm happy to see some of our families here also. This is an urgent matter, and because of the urgency, it's more crucial than ever that we come together. You know, I often say that our schools are a microcosm of the community, and when we've got events happening in the community, then they are going to resonate within our schools, and that's why it's so vital that this is a community effort. And I love what the mayor said about all hands on deck, because that's necessary. One of the things that I'm interested in diving into is getting to some of the root causes to our attendance issues. And I think everyone knows that the pandemic shifted everything. And, you know, I don't subscribe to the idea of a new normal, but I am looking forward to opening schools this fall and engaging in a school year that feels more like what we used to call normal. And as we do that, I want our scholars to not only be excited about it, but ready to attend school and to attend school regularly. Chronic absenteeism is missing more than 10% of the school year. And for us, that's about 18 days. And research shows that starting as early as pre-K and even kindergarten, chronic absenteeism can leave third graders unable to read proficiency. And I know we hear a lot about grade level proficiency and reading proficiency, and third grade is usually the level where we want and expect all of our scholars to be at grade level. And attending school regularly is one way that we can aim towards that successfully. In kindergarten, chronically absent students gained 14% fewer literacy skills by the time they entered the next grade level, and 15% fewer literacy skills in math. And so with those skills, with those statistics being the case and so readily available, we know that there's a direct correlation between school attendance and school outcomes as it relates to academics. For sixth graders, research shows that a sixth grader with poor attendance tends to score about 75% less likely to attend school successfully through high school and to graduate on time. And in high school, there's as much as a 50% difference in the graduation rates for students who miss 0 to 5 days versus students who miss more than 15 days. And so there's a lot of compelling evidence that shows that school attendance matters. We do want our scholars to be successful beyond high school. This, again, is going to take a collaborative effort, and I'm super excited to partner with the mayor's office, with the city, and with other stakeholders, and particularly, again, our scholars and our families. I did meet this morning with our school leaders and to make sure that they are equally engaged and with a sense of urgency as to the work that has to be done. And one place for us to start is by making sure that we have solid data in terms of what's actually happening within our schools today, and also digging deep and interrogating the data to see what's missing. What data points do we need to ensure that we're on the right track? We'll continue to watch national trends because as unique as our school district is and as unique as our community is, this problem is not unique. There are national problems and national resources as it relates to truancy and chronic absenteeism. So I do look forward to engaging with the community, and a shameless plug, I'll start my ABC tours in the next few weeks, and that's Dr. Avis's beignets and conversation. And in doing so, really looking forward to engaging the community, especially as I embark on my 100-day plan. And chronic absenteeism and looking at how we can work collaboratively to turn this around will be a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. And I know next we will have words from Dr. Leila Eames representing the Orleans Parish School Board. Oh, Olin Parker, come on, President Parker. Come on up, yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Mayor Cantrell. I want to thank everybody for coming out today to talk about this important issue. First, I'd like to thank the Mayor's Office for partnering with the Orleans Parish School Board, with NOLA Public Schools, and with all the stakeholders that you see at the table. These conversations that we've had throughout the summer have involved everybody that you can think of: NOPD, the Office of Youth and Families, representatives from the City Council, social workers, judges, the District Attorney's Office. Anybody you can imagine has been involved in solving this problem, and I really appreciate that community effort, and I know the entire Orleans Parish School Board does as well. I also want to highlight the work that some of our schools are already doing to combat truancy. This is something that our school leaders have raised to us as board members. This is something that they've been working on tirelessly throughout the pandemic. So just to give you a little bit of context for what's already happening in schools. Typically, if a student is late to class, if a student is absent, they automatically receive a text message and a phone reminder from that school saying, your child has been marked absent, perhaps they've been absent X many days, they need to be in school. After a number of days of a student being absent, a school will call in a parent and say, at day 5, you've been absent for 5 days, let's work together on how we can get you into school on a regular basis. After that, there may be an attendance contract, there may be classroom-wide or school-wide incentives. These are things that our schools are already doing, and as Mayor Cantrell and Dr. Williams already mentioned, it isn't enough. We need buy-in from the community. We need that village to step up and say, all of these things that are happening in schools certainly should continue to happen, but also, if you're a member of the community, if there is someone in your life that you know is not going to school regularly, reach out to that family and say, what can I do to help your child be in school? If you see somebody during the school day that should be in school that is not, say something to that person. Make sure that they get in school. School starts for most children in this city next week, and they should be in school every single day. One thing that came up during the course of these discussions is the idea that truancy or chronic absenteeism is high school kids cutting class, getting into trouble or doing things they're not supposed to do. But what the pandemic has taught us is that chronic absenteeism is from grades pre-K through 12. It's a kid missing school every couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden the end of the school year comes and they miss 20 to 25 days. That makes them less likely to read in 3rd grade, less likely to attend the high school they want to attend, and frankly, less likely to graduate from high school. So again, I'm very grateful for the partnership from everybody that is involved in this discussion. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Leila Eames. She's a lifelong educator. She represents Renew Schaumburg in District 1 and is someone for whom fighting truancy and chronic absenteeism has been a lifelong passion. So, Ms. Eames.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parker. He has said pretty much everything that needs to be said, but I want you to know that I am committed to District 1. I'm also committed to the entire citywide district. We must help with truancy. When I was selected to serve out Mr. John Brown's term as the interim board member for District 1, 2 things I said were important to me, and it was truancy and absenteeism. We must have our kids in school if we expect them to achieve. Statistics will show, Dr. Williams quoted some today, if they're not present in school, they will not have the opportunity to learn. We need to build to make certain that these kids are leaders and have productive futures. And the way we can do that is if they're present in school. But we also have to give them a reason to want to come to school. So we must find ways that we're doing creative things. These kids are sitting in front of a laptop or telephone all day long. We have got to find ways in schools, and that's going to be a commitment that the CEOs and the principals and the directors of schools are going to have to help us with. Let's make kids want to come to school every single day because there's something there that has piqued their interest. I also am using this as my slogan. It's all about our children. And today is a great representation of the city having a collaborative for our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And next, we are going to hear from, all right, our Superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department, Chief Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here to reaffirm our commitment to supporting NOLA PS in any way possible. We have school resource officers assigned to every police district throughout the city of New Orleans that will be here to support our public schools throughout the entire school year. But beyond just our school resource officers, our officers that are on patrol as well will be actively looking, searching for any children that may be out along our streets or throughout our community during school hours. We have been engaged with the working groups over the last several weeks. We're very excited to get into this somewhat sense of normalcy in trying to ensure that our kids have a bright future. And that is what this is all about. So our enforcement efforts are more about placing our kids right back into school, not taking them into custody, not arresting them, but bringing them to the schools where they should be bettering themselves. And in a further effort of supporting our kids, if we identify habitual offenders, then we're going to take the necessary steps to attach them to the right services, the right resources, to understand what are the underlying causes within that home. But today is about that holistic approach. As you see everyone standing before you today, reaffirming our commitment to our children, to our future of New Orleans. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. And now I'm going to ask Ms. Emily Wolf, who is our Director of the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families. And thank you for your leadership.
Good afternoon, everyone. As the mayor mentioned, for the past several months, we've engaged a number of stakeholders that are standing here today in this working group focused on truancy and chronic absenteeism. This work has been led by my Deputy Director, Asia Howlett, who's here today. I want to thank her. And I also specifically want to thank Board President Olin Parker for your leadership, along with Dr. Williams, team members, Dr. Kelly Jordan, and Dr. Shannon Perry for your participation in this process. There were 13 different charter management organizations that were represented in this working group. And we started by looking at the available data. We knew that last year the school district had been able to conduct about 2,000 truancy check requests. This sample would only reflect a fraction of the schools in Orleans Parish because referring youth was not mandatory, and due to capacity limitations, the district was primarily serving students in 7th through 12th grade. Schools across the board also reported that student attendance had dropped from 95 plus pre-COVID to some as low as the 80s percentage-wise post-COVID. So it's clear that chronic absenteeism and the face of truancy was not just families on the fringes, but really that this was a more widespread issue, that we needed all hands on deck approach to address some of these root causes. So we created a map of how the truancy system was currently set up. And what we found was that there are really multiple redundant pathways for how young people were being referred for truancy violations. There was also a limited capacity to serve all students and a lack of escalation or use of some of the backstops that we have in our court system in order to bring students and parents back into interaction with the system. We also, the working group, looked at models from across the country, and we also solicited the direct feedback of our young people to dig into some of the reasons behind student disconnection. We heard as we talked to young people, just as Ms. Eames was saying, is that young people need a reason to want and to continue to be connected to school. And with what we have seen with the pandemic on the mental health impacts of our young people, that this was feeding some of the disconnection from schools. So the working group emerged with a set of recommendations, as the mayor had already spoke about, a clear tiered set of interventions that our young people can move through that involves all community stakeholders, school leaders, NOLA Public Schools, NOPD, Juvenile Court, Municipal Court, and NOPD. Increased capacity and personnel at the district level to conduct these truancy check requests and provide adequate case management. Provided the required and comprehensive data collection between to track students' progression throughout the process, the opportunity to increase collaboration between the court system and NOLA Public Schools, The working group also discussed the enhanced role that NOPD can play in making sure that the school resource officers can assist with these truancy check requests. And then finally, reinstating regular community canvassing events to increase the business community's understanding of student employment restrictions and limitations, and also get them engaged and working with us to help to reduce chronic absenteeism. So all this is to say, the good news is that the district does not need to reinvent the wheel. They've all been working here in lockstep over the summer to create this blueprint. We also don't have time to waste. As Board Member Parker's shared, school starts next week. School starts next week. And so we all believe that we need to be all hands on deck again, that our students, our families, our hardworking educators deserve this kind of approach in order to reduce chronic absenteeism. And we, as the Office of Youth and Families, are committed to working hand in hand with all the stakeholders to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so now I know we have comments by our school representatives. I have Ms. Elizabeth is here. Councilman Oliver Thomas, did you want to say a few words? I want to put you on the spot. We have Ms. Tanya Bryan with Renew Schools as well.
Better than to ask a politician and a talk show host if you got to put them on the spot or not. LeBron, remember that commercial when we were growing up, do you know where your kids are? The public service announcement, do you know where your kids are? My cousin Greta knows where her kids are. She brought, as one of the parent advocates, Mayor Superintendent Williams, Chief, she brought her kids with her. Train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. It says train up a child, Curtis. It doesn't say your child. It takes a whole village to raise a child. Well, there's a hut in the village. If the hut isn't raising its child, it's probably going to be difficult, Superintendent, for the village to be able to deal with that child. 69% of juvenile offenders are functionally illiterate. Do you know where your child is? Our kids right now, New Orleans is approaching the national average for kids who are dropping out, not after high school, by the 6th grade. Superintendent, recently I was involved, and the family gave me the custody of a young man who was involved in the shooting. His family brought him to me to turn himself in. In my conversations with him, David, he had not been to school since the 9th grade. He had passed the entrance exam at Warren Easton. So he started off, potentially, Mayor and Superintendent Williams, with a very bright future. The family, for some reason, didn't have the ability to keep him accountable and be accountable for their child. So LeBron, do you know where your children are? I'd like to leave us with a question: do we know where our children are?
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Elizabeth?
Good afternoon. I just want to start out by saying it was so exciting to be part of the working group and so many stakeholders working toward making sure that our children have the best opportunities possible. Now, I'm here to celebrate schools on behalf of the school leaders, and we're really excited to return to school this year. Your teachers, the staff, we've been planning and preparing, and we're ready to welcome our children back. But one thing that we do know is that we must have our children in school consistently in order to learn, in order to achieve. That gives them the best opportunities possible, and we need the community's help. And I'm just excited. I'm excited to start this school year off strong, and I just appreciate everyone's participation in making sure we're doing what's right by our children at all times.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, we know there's lots of reasons why it's hard to get to school, but every school leader, every teacher, every school secretary, everybody in the building is committed to helping you and your children work through whatever it is that's stopping you from getting in school. So come to the building, we'll work through the issues, and it's never too late. If you miss the first day of school, if you miss the 17th day of school, there's always a place for you, and the school will make it work for you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for being here, but thank you so much for ensuring that we address truancy head on
and that we're committed to it, and we're looking forward to see that outcomes this school year with less chronic absenteeism in the city of New Orleans. So with that.
Can we ask a few questions?
Yes, I was just about to
Yeah.
say, we're gonna take on-topic questions only, we're gonna limit it to two for the sake of time. And please identify who you would like to speak to.
Yes,
Two per station. Let's start over here with LBJ, who's gonna come first.
Okay, on topic. All right, got it. Madam Mayor, and the school board president spoke about, us being able to, that parents would get texts and things of that nature. But do we have a centralized means of being able to track this truancy that's also connected with our police department, with all of that? Not just the individual schools, considering that we're dealing with all of these different operators. Where are we in that right now?
So one is, and Dr. Williams, you can speak to this, and this is one of the reasons why, in terms of the city, having to rely on and to depend on New Orleans Public Schools and our management organizations to commit to data sharing, data collection methods, so that we can not only track, but we can respond in real time and meet that family and those children literally where they are in our city. And so this is something that is a renewed commitment, and I know that I've been leaning very hard on our schools collectively to share this data. Dr. Williams?
Yeah, and I would just add that, during the working group time, that was getting us started, but it's going to have to be an ongoing process. There's no one and done when it comes to addressing this. So we're in it for the long haul, and there'll have to be routine opportunities for us to share data and to do check-ins so we can benchmark the progress that's being made, and even if we need to make any shifts of the direction that we're going in. So it's going to be an ongoing process and ongoing check-ins and meetings throughout the entire school year.
My final question is a very difficult one. Mayor, police chief, superintendent, is that of parental responsibility and us holding parents accountable. And I ask that question because, Mayor, oftentimes you and I have spoken, we talk about meeting parents and families where they are, but if in fact your child is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it is a consistent issue, and at some point this falls back to who's supposed to be in charge of that house. And so I guess my question is, where are we?
Sure, so and Dr. Williams can speak on it from the school's perspective, but from my perspective, what I do is that I do outreach directly to that family and to that child. I have meetings with them in my office, have interventions in partnering not only with the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families, but also the school itself and partner organizations that can further advance resources to help that child and to help that family. That's what I do every single time when I'm faced with a challenge with a young person in a family. So whether it's school or whether it is stepping outside of getting involved in criminal activity and the like, but it's that direct outreach that is necessary. Dr. Williams?
Yeah, and I'll just add that it is a shared responsibility, and honestly, families of course have a major responsibility in making sure that their children get up and go to school. But one of the things that we're really interested in also is the root cause, and as we uncover root causes, what supports and resources do families need? What are the barriers to consistent school attendance, and how can we not only partner within our community, but also work directly with families to ensure that we're meeting their needs. And that's why it's so important that we lift up the voices of our scholars and our families, because we need to hear directly from them about their experience in school. And not only making it more engaging and making it so that you can't wait to come to school, but also looking at access to transportation. And if there's a situation that's going on at school that's causing some worry or some anxiety or some concern that's preventing a child from coming to school. So it'll be a case-by-case situation, but absolutely want to make sure that we're partnering directly with our families to help address any root causes.
George, Chief, anything to add?
Dr. Williams?
I think Dr. Williams said it all. It would be on a case-by-case basis, LBJ. Again, as we've said with our curfew violators, we want to bring them home. We want to bring our kids to school, get their education. But if we identify them as being habitual offenders, then we're going to address them accordingly. And against, the best thing is to attaching them to the proper services or resources so they can identify the true root cause, so we would not have to deal with them again in the future. But again, case-by-case basis.
Dr. Williams, David Hammer from WWL-TV did a story last week and found that there's major problems with the data on truancy, where the individual charter school organizations have to report directly to the State Department of Education. What specifically is being done to centralize that data, and is it being done by NOLA Public Schools?
Yeah, that's a great question. So making sure that we have accurate and timely data is extremely important as we address this issue. And that is one of the challenges that we're looking at. How do we not only get the right data, but get it in a timely manner? And so had the first meeting this morning with all school leaders, and I'll continue to engage the school leaders on a format, a framework for what that will actually look like. And that will include what specific data do we need? How are we interrogating that data? And having data teams really look at the end result, the outcomes of the data, and just making sure that we've got the teachers' voices lifted up as well as our school leaders in that process. And so to your point, that's absolutely something that we need to make sure that we're doing a better job of.
Okay, and then for the mayor or for the superintendent, could you explain what happened to the 12 school resource officers last school year? After we came back to in-person school, why were they not doing that they had been doing in the previous school years prior to the pandemic?
So, you know, the last 2 years have been very challenging for across the country. So we were not able to enforce as we've done in the past. You had some schools that were physically in school, some were still doing school virtually. So how do you properly identify what school this child attends, if at all? So we had to flex every day, adapting to what it is that was presented in front of us on a daily basis. And just now being able to go back to this somewhat sense of normalcy, we have a better understanding as to how we want to re-engage in this new opportunity that we have for our students.
So those 12 are back on?
Yes, so they've been for the last year, so they've been assisting with our community liaison officers. They've been helping coordinate various community events, as well as attaching our schools to whatever services that we can provide throughout the school year to support whatever mission they are trying to accomplish throughout that school year.
Right, and it's very important to also understand that we got here, meaning having working groups and the real focus on truancy, because of what we saw on the ground. And it was the city of New Orleans taking that step forward to engage all stakeholders. So what you're seeing here this afternoon is a result of that, and us wanting to address it on the front end and be as proactive as possible. And I believe that's what we're doing here today, and we'll continue to tweak as necessary, but demonstrating on the front end that this is a serious problem. It's something that has impacted the quality of life of our city overall, but more importantly, the academic achievement of our young people. And hey, if we don't raise them up and give them the education that we know that they need, then we'll have to deal with that in other aspects within our community that we do not want to see. So this is a comprehensive approach, and we're committed to that.
Would you say it's similar to what you did when you stepped in on the school bus situation a few years ago?
Yes, I would say that as well, yes. I would say that as well. When you see an issue, you have to face it and you have to address it. I understand that education, for example, is not my responsible overall, like in terms of what I'm responsible for, but I do have a responsibility to it. And so as a result of that, we're here and we're committed.
Okay, thank you, David Shea. And this may be a question for the Office of Youth and Families, but any information just when it comes to the 95% attendance rates, or was that 2019?
What are you asking?
When it comes to children being in schools, I know you said 95%, but then it dropped to what percentage? In what year?
We were saying that some schools reported that it dropped to the low 80s. Right. That's not comprehensive, though. That's some of the data that we were able to receive.
Okay, I know the pandemic has shifted a lot, but I was just wondering if you could give us more specific information on how the pandemic has impacted the attendance rates in New Orleans schools specifically.
Well, our superintendent, I believe, will speak to that.
Yeah, and I could get you some specific data points. soon, but essentially, there were so many disruptions to learning, in school, out of school, remote learning, hybrid learning, and so forth. And it had an impact nationally in terms of people's perceptions of even school. And so we're still grappling with some of the fallout from that, and knowing that as we enter this new school year, that we're going to have to be very clear in our communications that school is in session, school is in person, and everyone is expected to attend. And to that end, we are beginning the year with a campaign, Attend Today, Achieve Tomorrow. And our hashtag is I'm in, and that I am in is I'm in school. I'm in terms of getting involved with this campaign. I'm in terms of supporting my young people that I have in the home. I'm in terms of being a community partner with all of our schools so that we can turn this ship around and start the school year out positively and continue to move in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I thought those was two.
That's okay. Just when it comes to the school resource officers, so there's one assigned to every school in Orleans Parish, and what are their responsibilities?
No. I wish I had that number of officers. So you have a school resource officers assigned to every police district, and they're the point of contact for the schools within that police district's boundaries. So they have, over the years, we've had a great relationship with the schools within our districts, and we will continue to build on just that. So their responsibility is to assist where necessary. As they may be asking for some compliance checks, we will assist with that. But of course, when there's some criminal activity, they will lean on that school resource officer first before we pull anyone from patrol to try to assist or address those issues.
If I could ask Dr. Avis just one question. I know you talked about the ABC.
You gonna make everybody else laugh.
Yeah.
And then also, I know you talked about the 100-day plan. If you could just kind of give us an overview of it.
Yeah, sure. So the 100-day plan is my entry plan, and it just basically highlights my priorities as I begin embarking on this work through my core values, which are equity, excellence, and joy. And one thing that I really want to prioritize is community engagement, and the goals that I set out in this entry plan are only going to be achievable if it's a collaborative effort. And so the ABC tour is for that purpose. And again, that's Dr. Avis's beignets and conversations. And we will have beignets there, right, Chief Communications Officer? But the idea really is to just ask some tough questions. I've got key questions listed in the entry plan, and I also have an open-ended question to say, what am I not asking that I might need to ask? And the whole goal, again, is to make sure that we're all moving together in the right direction and addressing any of the barriers to access to high-quality education, and ultimately to move forward with reimagining the district's strategic plan.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna take photos at this time, and then we may have maybe one or two off topics, but after photos, we need to get photos. Okay. Photos with you, Chief, everybody, press conference.
We come up, you're gonna